Hi guys, my name is Laurel and I have been living in Arizona for 1 whole year now. These are just a couple of things I've noticed since living here, and I wanted to give an honest testimony of what it's really like to live in Arizona. I'll be breaking it down into 9 categories: weather, transportation, people, geology, plants and animals, things to do, food, rent, misconceptions, and overall pros and cons. I'll also add the timestamps below so you can skip around as you please. First up, weather. This is the one thing that everybody wants to know. Is it really as hot as they say it is? I like to explain it like this. The sun is hot/warm all year round, but the air outside changes, obviously. So in the winter, the air is cold and the sun is still warm. So if you're in the shade, you're freezing. In the summer, it's like opening the oven door and that heat just like attacks your face. That's what it feels like to walk outside. There's no escaping the heat even in the shade. But you know what I'm gonna say? It's a dry heat. But really, it truly feels so much better than those awful, muggy Midwest summers where you just walk outside and you feel like you're drowning in humidity. On that very first day we moved here, it was 100 degrees outside. My boyfriend and I kind of looked at each other and thought, did we just make a horrible decision? Quickly learned that even if you're going for a 5-minute walk outside in the summer, you have to bring water. It's hot. Arizona is actually sunnier than Florida. It is the sunniest state. Winter doesn't really exist here. It just kind of skips from fall to spring. There have been exceptions in the past, but really it never snows here. If you want snow, you can just drive 2 hours north to Flagstaff. Plus, the autumn leaves are actually changing in December rather than September, October, and the leaves fall off the trees in December and January. I took this picture of the tree outside of our apartment budding new leaves in January. Everyone kept warning us about those famous monsoons, but really we've only seen a handful. It gets crazy, crazy windy where the trees look like they're about to snap in half, and then it'll just pour down dumping hard rain. Also, a few times it'll be thundering and lightning with no rain at all. Dust storms, which are actually called haboobs. We have yet to see a true dust storm like you see in the movies, but there was one time where we were going out on our bird scooters and we got caught in the middle of one. They just start out of nowhere. There's not a lot you can do, you just have to run for cover. The climate here is about as far opposite of Minnesota as you can get, which I'm from Minnesota. People here would say, I'm so excited for November, and I'm just thinking, November, really? For the holidays, it's kind of hard to have holiday cheer when it's 70 degrees and sunny out. It's a little surreal to be driving with the windows down, listening to Christmas music, and seeing palm trees outside your window. And last but not least, the wide open desert sky provides the most stunning sunsets I have ever seen. Transportation. Probably one of the weirdest things I've noticed since living here is that cars don't have front license plates. I'm not sure why. It makes it a little bit difficult to identify your car from the front because nobody has front license plates. Speaking of license plates, there are so many California license plates, a lot of Washington people are here, and even a lot of Florida. It seems like a lot of people come here. There are so many Teslas. I don't think I've ever seen a Tesla in my entire life, and now I see one multiple times a day. There's even a Tesla store in the Scottsdale Mall. People call the freeways the 101 and the 202, which I actually think is super endearing, and I started calling them that too. It's just fun to say, oh, we hopped on the 101. The speed limit is a suggestion. 55-mile-an-hour work zone? Nope. I'm talking everyone is going 20 over in work zones. Also, the rate at which people use their blinker is about 30 to 40%. But no one has road rage. You'd think the sun would be boiling people's brains and making everybody angry, but really, no one honks. Everyone just assumes that everyone else is gonna drive like a complete dumbass, and everyone else is just like, well, that's normal. You get cut off and everyone's just like, well, it's a Tuesday. There are bird and lime scooters everywhere here. Obviously now with coronavirus, they've taken them all off the streets, which is a bummer, but they also are super nice to have when you're just going for a little scoot around the neighborhood. Scoot. Also, when you hop on the freeway and see signs for Los Angeles, That to me just feels really magical and like I'm really in that West Coast lifestyle. People. Considering it is a red state, I was prepared for a bunch of gun-slinging, redneck, high-key racist white people, when in reality, people here are actually pretty chill. There is a super unique and interesting blend of cultures here. You have Mexican, Native American, your typical Southwest cowboy, Old West, and then you have your kind of chill California hippie type. You see a lot of that culture reflected in architecture and art, even just on the freeways, you see little geckos and Southwest patterns. It's just really unique to be immersed in that purely Southwest culture. In the more wealthier areas, you do get a little bit of that snobby, rich California LA type. When we first moved here, I did work in a wealthier shopping district. You do see a lot of Louis Vuittons. People are still pretty nice. There's also a lot of Midwest people, a lot of Midwestern transfers here. There's a lot of Chicago people. There is a lot of Minnesota people here. So you do get a little bit of that Midwest friendliness / passive aggressiveness. I would say overall, people here are actually really nice and really happy. People wave when they pass you on the streets and they ask you how you are at the grocery store. You get a sense of people being pretty laid back, which is nice. Geology. Arizona is way more geologically diverse than I ever realized. The Valley of the Sun, which is where Phoenix is truly in a valley. It is very much your typical sunny desert. Because we're in the valley, we have mountains in every single direction, and it really never gets old to look out at any direction and see mountains. Once you go about 2 hours north of Phoenix, you hit pine trees, you hit lakes, you hit snow. It is definitely not something you consider when you think of Arizona. It definitely looks far more like Western Washington or the Pacific Northwest. There are desert lakes, and they have the most stunning juxtaposition of dry desert and then water. And the desert lakes are definitely one of my favorite things here. Then there's Sedona with the famous Red Rock Buttes, a meteor crater, Monument Valley, old Native American dwellings, the petrified forest, painted desert, and so much more. Plants and animals. When you think about Arizona, you probably think of scorpions. And you wanna know what I haven't seen a single one of down here? Scorpions. We don't have the typical Midwest squirrels. We have little ground squirrels, which are super cute. Have you ever heard of a javelina? Here's a javelina. These things are huge and aggressive. When we were in northern Arizona on a day hike, we saw one cross right in front of our car on this mountain, and it was insane to see one in real life finally. Another thing I've noticed is that the cicadas here are no joke. If you've ever heard Midwest cicadas, times that by 10, they are insanely loud to the point where it almost hurts your ears, they're so loud. When you're driving through the desert and you know you finally made it to civilization when you see palm trees, because palm trees have to grow where there's water and they're not native, so they have to be planted. So if you see palm trees, you know you're in civilization. The cacti here are awesome. The saguaros are perfect, and they are straight out of every single cowboy movie you've ever seen. The prickly pears are one of my favorite cacti. They bloom these gorgeous, bright, multicolored flowers in the spring. My absolute favorite part of living here is that flowers grow all year long, not just in the spring and summer. In the spring, you do get those wildflowers and the prickly pears blooming. It is so beautiful to look out my window or just down the street when I'm driving and just see so much color. Even in January, it's wonderful to have color. And then the fruit trees. It feels like living in some kind of Garden of Eden, seeing abundant lemons, grapefruits, oranges, limes, pomegranates, just everywhere. Things to do. There is so much to do. When you're not limited to only a couple months out of the year to be outside, the options are boundless. LA is 6 hours away. Disneyland is 5.5 hours away. Vegas is 4.5. Grand Canyon is 3.5. Tucson is 2 hours. Sedona is less than 2 hours. You drive 6 hours outside of Minneapolis and you're in Bismarck? We live less than 5 minutes from these gorgeous buttes that just pop out of nowhere in the middle of the city. There are water parks, golf courses, desert botanical garden, museums, aquariums, theaters, and shopping here is huge, especially in Scottsdale. And there's even a Arizona Renaissance Festival. So nerds like me can dress up and go be dorky and have fun. Food. There is so much food. You have your typical fast food chains and even more local chains like In-N-Out Burger, and then there's this one place called Lolo's Chicken and Waffles that if you've never had it and you have a chance to, you must go there. Expectedly, there is a lot of Mexican food, almost every single block it seems. And then there's also these things called carnicerias, which are Mexican supermarkets where they have all Spanish food, and they also have freshly made tacos and burritos in the store. Also, Italian food seems to be kind of big down here too, which is totally fine in my book. Rent. From the research we did before we moved, rent prices seem pretty comparable to the Minneapolis area prices. We pay around $1,600 in rent a month for a 2-bedroom apartment in a gated community with a pool, workout room, and volleyball court. Obviously, we don't have a house, but we're hoping to look for a house in the future. From our research we've done on that, it seems you get a little bit less than your money's worth than you would in maybe a smaller town in the Midwest. But again, you're paying for location depending on where you are, and there are wealthier neighborhoods and more expensive cities to live in, like Scottsdale. Our electric bill in the summer is kind of intense. It definitely gets really high with our AC unit, but that thing does drain energy like crazy. Misconceptions. Havasu Falls. You know that famous waterfall that you've seen on Instagram all the time? It is not a day trip. It is a 10-mile hike in and a 10-mile hike out, where you carry all of your supplies for 4 days. People think the desert is just orange and tan, but actually it's much more lush than I ever expected. Especially in the city, it's like a little oasis. And there are seasons. This tree right outside changed colors and the leaves all fell and then it bloomed again. So there are seasons here. Overall, pros and cons. Now, I don't want to make this sound like it's all sunshine and daisies because that's definitely not the case. So, some cons. There are a lot of homeless people. I think there could be a little bit more race diversity. There are a lot of white people here. You definitely see a large disparity in wealth. On one side, you have multi-million-dollar mansions, and then a couple blocks away, you have homeless people living on the street. One of the biggest cons, in my opinion, is there's not a lot of water. Being from Minnesota, I'm used to there being lakes drivable any 10 minutes wherever you go, and here it's really not the case. And then the pros. So other than all of the wonderful things I've already mentioned, pros for me are that I feel like I'm on vacation every single day. I rarely have to worry about inclement weather. You just assume that it's gonna be nice and sunny. And last but not least, being a 6-hour drive to the Pacific Ocean is just wonderful. And that's all I have. I hope you enjoyed this video and hopefully learned a little something about Arizona today. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up so that I know to make another one that tells me that you liked it. If I think of more things, I will make a part 2 to this video. Thanks so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed. Thanks!